Good morning. I'm out here before the sun is hitting the rustic garden bed, and every year we gardeners always evaluate how things did, what we like, what we don't like, and I thought I'd share a few thoughts on what I will and will not be replanting next year. Some of these are perennials, so they come back anyway, but some of them are annuals. So let's go over each of the plants I had some thoughts about. Now right away you can see there's some pops of brightness in these three areas, and that is because I have this beautiful Chartreuse coleus, and it just pops even in the shade. This garden is half-day shade, I would say, at least a half a day, and look at how it pops. It's a bright yellowy green, and it just stands out. It's also done really well in these shady conditions. The other thing that's doing well that I planted from seed last year is the Agastache. So I'm really happy about that. I think it could probably use more sun, but it's getting just enough, and I love how beautiful the foliage is. It's very wispy and light. So I'm loving that. My chrysanthemums are doing well and putting out some buds. So hopefully I'm going to be seeing some blooms this fall, but that's another perennial. So I'm happy about my chrysanthemums, my Agastache, and my lime thyme coleus. I think it's lime thyme. There are different varieties of coleus, so it could be one of the other Chartreuse varieties. But these were all from cuttings, so that's why I'm extra pleased. Pineapple Surprise coleus has also done really well and added some nice color. It's a little bit hard for me to get flowers back here because of the shade situation. It is pretty shady. This is previously a woodland area, and although we've cleared some trees out over the years, some have fallen down on their own, it is still quite shady for most of the day, as I mentioned earlier. One thing that's done really well is the garlic chives. I would say they've done even better than the regular chives over here. So I may want to expand my garlic chives, and it looks like this is putting up seed. So I might try to take some seed from that and grow a little more. Of course, I can dig it up in the spring and divide it as well and spread it in other areas of this garden bed. So that also might be something that I do. And then let's come back here. Here's something I probably won't do. The darker coleus really blends in. The plant is done very well, and if you look closely, it's quite beautiful. But it does blend in to the mulch background. So it really doesn't stand out the same way this does. Look at that. It's just like having a light. These are just so amazing. And these are, I think, better left for a pot where you can see them close up. And down here, this is another coleus. I don't know what the name of this one is, but it has provided a purpley pink and also that bright chartreuse color. So I'm definitely going to do some more of that. Like I said, it's hard to get flowers in the shade, and coleus is a really good way to get some color. Here's another mum. It's got buds all over it. So hopefully I'll be getting some flowers for that. So the mums seem to be able to stand it. And this is some coral bells here. They're doing fine, and they had some flowers earlier in the spring, so they're doing fine. And these are all my Sweet William, and they're of course spectacular on both ends of the bed. I spread them out. I dug them up and spread them out so they could really root in, and they're doing very well. And if you look closely, and they're reliable every spring, it's a magnificent display. But if you look closely, you can also see that they've seeded themselves. There's a lot of little seedlings popping up. So these will bloom next year, and then the seedlings will bloom the following year. Here's a whole batch of seedlings back there. So I've got 2 years worth of blooming Sweet William, assuming of course they make it through the winter, but they have for a couple years now, so I should get some nice flowers. The columbine has done really well back here in the shade. This end I made a real effort to add in some shade-loving plants because this end of the bed is even shadier than the other end, which does get more afternoon sun. But again, here's a regular chives plant, and that isn't doing as well as the garlic chives, so I think I'm going to focus on more garlic chives and maybe dividing those and spreading them out in this bed and elsewhere. One thing I will not plant back here again is zinnias. This is quite a pathetic display here. First of all, something's chewing on them, and secondly, they just don't get enough sun. They have been this size for several weeks, so obviously they're puny and they're not thriving. Another thing which I will not put in this bed next year are the dark coleus. And I think this was dark night coleus. And it's a really beautiful plant. Again, I think I would love it in a pot closer to the house. But as you can see, it's practically invisible on the dark mulch. You can see here. But it is a beautiful purple. Unfortunately, it's so dark you can barely see it. So next year in this bed, I'm going to focus on those brighter ones. I keep showing you, they're just like bright lights in the shaded rustic garden. So that will be what I focus on next year. And then these are beautiful. These are cardinal flowers. It's a little bit hard to see. And I think grasshoppers have come along and chewed them in half. I don't know if you can see, one is bent over right there. But something has come along. It's either a rabbit or maybe even an insect like a grasshopper. But they're doing beautifully, and of course I'll keep those. Those are from my friend Lori, and they're also a perennial flower. And my autumn joy sedum is doing well. I just added this one. So it's doing okay. I try not to overwater it. And then over here, I have a verbena, bonariensis, and I just cut off the blooms, but it seems to have really taken in this spot. I think it's really going to look gorgeous next year. So, and it's also a perennial, so that'll be nice to have. And my thyme does well. It does tend to kind of dry out here. The soil isn't the best, although I keep pouring more amendments onto it and fertilizers. But thyme does really well in this bed. So I would say the winners on the spice, in the spice category, are thyme and the garlic chives over there, which are sending up those lovely blooms. And the foliage just looks so crisp and nice compared to the other chives, which by this time of year is looking a little bit worse for wear. And then here are more of my Sweet Williams, and if we look closely, lots of little seedlings are coming up in between the more mature plants. So guys, oregano is always reliable, and I have at least 3 huge mounds of it in this rustic garden bed. And I think these are snapdragons that seeded themselves. So I have absolutely no idea what variety that is. But if something's willing to seed itself and do well in the bed, I'm all for that. So we'll see if it comes back next year. I do think it's an annual, but if it's dropping seeds, perhaps we'll see it again next year. So guys, that's my rundown. Those are the plants I want to repeat, the annuals that are scattered around some of my perennials. I think all my perennials are fine. I won't relocate any of those. The mums are doing fine. The Agastaches doing fine. But as far as the annuals, I will definitely be repeating and adding more of the lime-colored coleus. I will not be doing the dark purples. They're completely invisible in this setup. I will be spreading out more chives. And I will probably, I'm going to add a lot of coleus next year, a lot more coleus, I think. And I'll definitely be expanding on this type of coleus as well that has the pink and purple on it that show up with the lime edges. So guys, that's about it. That's kind of an update on the rustic garden bed, what's doing well, what isn't, what shows up, what makes a statement. And I would imagine this time of year, you're probably looking over your garden and seeing what worked for you. So I hope you're enjoying some of this milder weather wherever you are. And thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next time.